So it looks like gamers have said no to the overpriced RTX 4070. The amount of stock available is something that I haven't seen even with the RTX 4080. Let me give you an example. Look at a local Micro Center, and everybody that gets mad when I point out Micro Center because you guys don't have one, well, they're shipping the GPU for the first time. I've never seen them ship a GPU before. In fact, if I check like a 6950 XT, you can only get it in store. 4090 in store. Look at the 4070. By the way, they have almost over 200 in stock. One store. I'm not even talking about Micro Center in general. This is one local store. They're shipping it. That means you can order it to be shipped depending wherever you live, even if you don't have a Micro Center near you. That's something I've never seen before, even when the GPU sort of shortage started to change a bit. I mean, you can tell that Nvidia and the retailers saw this coming. First, I just want to say I feel bad for the retailers. I mean, I'd like them to be doing a lot of business, selling other computer parts for PC gaming in general to be healthy. The RTX 4070 is a GPU that, while cheaper than other GPUs we've seen recently, comes at sort of a long line of just pricing getting much more expensive, and you're getting less physical hardware in the GPU to justify that price. Some people even said this should be a $400 GPU. I don't think so. That would make it obviously like a 4060 level GPU. I think $499, they should have just stuck to that price, because even at $599, sure, they sold a couple. It's not like nobody bought them, but they're not moving at all. And judging if they got over 200 copies of this GPU, that really tells you something. Let me give you guys an example. This very same store, they got over 150 copies on launch day of the 4090. I remember that. The 4090 is really expensive, $1,600 to $2,000. That GPU sold out literally almost instantly. That means that at least 150 people had that much money to buy it. Yes, some of them were scalpers, and that's one thing that's been eliminated from the GPU market. No scalper is going to even think about buying an RTX 4070 because there's absolutely no resale value there. And now let's hear a word from our sponsor, VIP-CDKdeals.com, a Windows 10 Pro CD key. Add to cart, you put in code CC20. This will also work on Windows 11. You want to go into your settings in Windows, change and adjust your CD key, click activate, and now let's go back to the video. This much cheaper GPU, they had over 200 copies, and today they still had that number, and you can even get it shipped like I mentioned. That's definitely a really interesting turn of events. It's not like the GPU itself is bad. I mean, you can play 1440p, you're going to get pretty good performance. Is that the pricing is bad? And when you compare it to last generation, we were talking about, remember that 6950 XT that I mentioned that you can't ship it, you got to buy it in the store? $650. Some of them are down around $600. Even a 6800 XT is now discounted way under $600. Those GPUs have more or less the same performance, ray tracing excluded, of the 4070, and they're from last generation. Yes, the power draw is more. Some people commented on that the other day. I agree with you. The 4070 certainly is more efficient. It does have its positives. Like I said, the 4070 is a good GPU if we view it in a vacuum. Problem is, with its hampered VRAM of only 12 gigabytes, which is becoming more and more an issue even in 1440p, it seems like these older GPUs where people may have access to on the used market, like if you pick up a 6900 XT for $500 on the used market, in my opinion, that's a much better deal than a new 4070, because you just saved $100, you're getting better performance, and your VRAM isn't going to be limited because it's 16 gigabytes. You're going to have much bigger of a buffer before that becomes an issue. So looking at the numbers in the store, you can tell there are a lot of MSRP $599 GPUs. That's something that clearly Nvidia saw coming. They knew that they didn't want there to be a bunch of like $700 plus 4070s, so they made sure that at least now initially the most expensive model I saw is $679. This is definitely different than the 4070 Ti. Remember that one, some models started at $799, but first it was a lot less of them. You didn't see as many $799 base MSRP models. They were mostly in the 800s, and then some models went as high as $1,049. I'm looking at you, Asus Strix. You have a cool cooler and some cool aesthetics, but it's not worth a $200 $250 premium over the base model. Look at the 4070. There is no Asus Strix that we've even seen. Maybe that card exists, but they've decided not to release it yet because they're going to have to charge upwards of $700+. Everything is $679 and below. I haven't even seen any $699 4070s, to be honest. Most of them are $599, and even the ones that were like $619, it seems like they were discounted already on launch day to $599. I've seen a lot of that, which is certainly unusual, and it shows you that A, Nvidia, and B, the retailers knew that this crunch was coming and that people simply were not going to buy. Now, we have to explain what's going on here. $599, if people watch the reviews, a lot of reviewers had to say that at least it seems like a better value than other GPUs that we've seen. Some ways it's true, some ways it's not. The price went up way too much comparative to last generation. You're not getting much over an RTX 3080, to be honest, just for that $100 difference. It's supposed to historically have a considerable more performance uplift on the 70 class GPU compared to something like the 3080. That's why I really think this GPU feels like a 4060. I don't know what Nvidia did with the product stack to change things around, but that's certainly something that's possible. I mean, look, the 4070 Ti, they try to brand as a 4080 12GB. Somebody made a mistake at one point. There was one point that they thought they could get away with selling that as a 4080. Look at how badly the 4070 Ti has been received. Imagine if it had been a 4080, that would have been a complete embarrassment. But at some point, it went through its launch and announcement. People thought it was a good idea, but they have no idea really what's going on with gamers. Nvidia is months behind, it seems, just what gamers are feeling about their products. They think they can put anything out there that's too expensive, and then gamers are going to accept it. And then when they don't, they see these results with GPUs on the shelves. AMD does the same thing. Sometimes they're even slower to react, or they don't even react at all. So interesting to see the amount of GPUs here. I mean, is it a GPU that you can recommend? Like I said, we're right in the middle here because we're put up against the wall. You can say it's overpriced and don't buy it, but does that help people really at the end of the day? I mean, as long as when you buy it, you're aware of what else is on the market. If I tell you to simply not buy the GPU, doesn't really help. Let's say you need a GPU and you really want to know a good option. You should buy it, but at least knowing what you're getting, knowing its limitations, knowing what else you may be able to get on the used market, like a 3080, maybe you can get for cheaper sometimes for similar performance, or something like the 6900 XT from AMD. And then of course, you're gonna know maybe they have more power draw. They're not gonna have DLSS 3. There are those things to keep in mind. And at the end of the day, there's no other new GPU that's $599. So then it puts reviewers and people sort of in a tight spot. While it's a difficult GPU to recommend like enthusiastically, like, oh, go buy it, this is amazing, it's also, you can't tell people like absolutely not to buy it because it could be right around the price range that they've been waiting for. And by that I mean the cheapest one that they can maybe stretch their budget to. Remember, not everybody's gaming on 4080s and 4090s. Most people are used to more, regular systems, maybe with like a 2070. Maybe they're upgrading from like a 1080 and they spent $200 or $300 on their GPU, and now it's a lot to ask for a $600 GPU, especially knowing the limitations that Nvidia has put on it. This GPU is not punching above its price class. It's basically the bare minimum that they really can get away with. So going to be interesting to see what happens with future GPU releases. AMD is yet to respond with anything aside from their old GPU lineup that they're dropping the price on, but they don't have a 7800 XT or 7700 XT to really, respond to Nvidia with. And that's where they could really take some market share, even though every time I say this, I know AMD seems to mess up every single time, or maybe they just don't want to take market share. They could have taken plenty of market share from Nvidia back during the GPU shortage. I watched their GPUs on the shelves gather dust while Nvidia sold out immediately, and they never dropped those prices. So it's going to be interesting to see because AMD as well is very overpriced with the 7900 XT, evident by the fact it's not selling well at all. Every GPU really staying on the shelves now. Now, at least with the 4070, we have the proof of how the launch was. And as you can see, you can check any retailer, not only Micro Center, you can check Newegg and Best Buy. They have basically all of the models still in stock. The Founders Edition did seem to sell out a little bit faster, but that one is more like a special edition in a way. Who knows how many Nvidia is actually releasing out into the wild, but without exception, most of the other models from $599 to $679 that I've seen, they're in stock today in various retailers. Even Micro Center, you get it shipped to you, so you don't need a store near you. So that's certainly a very big change that we're not used to seeing in the GPU landscape. Now, the next item in line is going to be lower prices, because if they're not selling and staying on shelves, it's not enough for them to just stay there. People are not going to buy them. We need to see this 4070 at $499. That's the only point I think that it's going to sell. If the 4070 was $499, that would be probably a terrific value. It would have performance, it would have lots of capabilities in DLSS 3, and $499 would be a very fair point. Now, $599 Nvidia thought was perhaps fair, but it's obvious in this type of market and economy, it's just not going to sell. And gamers said no to that GPU because yes, it's still overpriced, even if it may be your only option in that sort of range. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.